Hi! So excited to bring you this series of Jay Speaks. Today I'm going to be speaking to Genevieve, who is an erotic expert and erotic blueprint coach. We're going to talk all things self-pleasure and eroticism. Genevieve's relaunching again, which we're so lucky to have, her self-pleasure challenge. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to invite her to this live. Add viewer to your broadcast. Let's see if it works. There she is. All right, let's see. This should work. All right. Oh, easy. Hopefully the magic will happen and she'll be with us very, very shortly. Yes!
We
Love
did
it.
it.
The universe
First
loves
try.
speed, sweetheart.
What'd you say?
The universe loves speed.
I know. You were like, want to come on? I was like, how about in an hour? Let's do it right now.
How about now? Let's do it.
How about right now?
I was like,
It's
hold
so
on, let me
great.
find some lip gloss real quick.
I love it. How are you doing?
I'm really, really good, thank you. Really good. Thanks for coming on at
Mm,
such short notice. I've been watching your work for a while and loving it. So I'm really
mm,
excited to talk to you.
thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Always really gets me excited and just like, oh, to be able to talk about sex and connection and all the things that the world needs more of. So,
You still, hey Dana. So I'm just going to introduce you properly, because
beautiful.
I talked about you a little bit before I managed to send out the invite. So for my viewers who might not know Genevieve, and I'll introduce myself for the others. This is Genevieve, who's an erotic expert. We're very lucky to talk to her today because she has an immense amount of knowledge. She's a professional, or was a professional dominatrix. So lots of information there, but also an accelerated evolution coach with a background in psychotherapy, which when we mix these together is very potent. Plus, you're an erotic blueprint coach, which I'd love you to talk a little bit about because I really like Jaya's work and everything that that brings. She lives in New York and she offers lots of one-to-one work and also workshops. I'm presuming that your one-to-one work will be worldwide, not just New York based.
Yes, yeah, that's worldwide. We've got people in Bali, which has been funny with scheduling, but yes, all over the world.
So amazing. So a big part of Genevieve's work is to, quite like myself, is creating healthy conversations and practical things around really releasing shame around not just the conversation about sex, but how we interact sexually with ourselves and each other. And I really feel that through releasing these kind of conditionings of shame that we have, we will create such a wide effect on our societies and our families and our world, as well as our own personal experience. So I know Genevieve's got another round of the self pleasure challenge coming up, which I'll let her talk to you about. And there are people from all over the world in that group, right?
That's amazing. We just got a bunch of people from India coming in, and I was like, this is so cool just to see the difference of conditioning, of sexual
Yeah.
conditioning around the world and watching how people relate to the self-pleasure challenge based on where you live. And it's just been such a brilliant study of humanity. So
Yeah.
it's been really fun.
So amazing. So I just want to say hello and welcome to all of our viewers who are on the line. Do feel free to pop in and ask questions, to ask Genevieve anything about the pleasure tribe that she has and the is it a 7 day or 5 day
It's
challenge?
5 day. We were doing 7 days and people were blowing themselves out too much. So they were
Not
like,
too many on haven't been a win.
I was like, okay, guys, let's just do 5 and then we'll talk about it, like titration, which is something really important with sexual expansion, titration. So just a little bit at the beginning. It's a 5 day challenge. It's meant to we'll get into this more, Jay, about like what this means to decondition your body and your nervous system to open freely sexually. But it's basically a way that I've developed to really learn your nervous system and learn what it needs each day to drop into that openness that we're all seeking, right? That
Mm.
openness, not just to sex, but to life, to all things, because everyone's nervous system is wired really differently. It's stunning. And so there's no one way that will work for everyone. And so it's learning ourselves so that we can then bring that out into the world on a very body embodied level. So that's the basis of the challenge. And it's been just, this is like our 8th time doing it, and people have huge shifts in 5 days. It's been awesome. Yeah.
It's incredible to see, thousands of people from all over the world. And like you say, everyone can participate at a level that feels good for them, because people are at different stages. Some people are literally just tiptoeing onto this path of maybe there's something for me to discover about sexuality. There are some people who've done lots of different training and workshops, and they can absolutely benefit from it as well. And like the cross pollination of everybody together, it's quite an exciting energy, I feel.
And it raises everyone's vibration up, right? So even if you're in there and you're nervous and you're just watching the videos and barely commenting, right? The people that are in there are expanding. And so just by being in the group and being a part of that 5 days, your nervous system will expand. It's pretty impossible not to. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. So what I'd really like to hear from you, your thoughts about how creating our self-pleasure practice, how this process of deconditioning, what that means, and how it contributes to healthy sex and intimacy.
Beautiful. I love that inquiry. So, without a self pleasure practice, I'll start there.
Yeah.
What happens is and this was me before I found mine, right? We walk around the world with these projections and these blocks on our nervous system. So even if our mind, this is what happened to me, like my mind was really clear, right? I had done all the spiritual development work, I did years of that. So my mind was pretty clear of limiting belief systems, and I was ready to love fully. I was ready for abundance. Like I was there, and I was doing all the vision boards, right? Like you know how that rolls. Um,
Yep.
and for whatever reason, I was still finding myself in these interactions with other people, or even with myself, unable to fully open to the magic and the presence that's right here in front of me. I often say that pleasure is basically just presence, right?
Mm.
And a lot of us, because we have these conditionings in our body, our bodies reacted to external stimuli over, our lifetime. We're not conditioned to open to the present experience. And so the practice of a daily self pleasure will then start to break down those walls on a body level. There's not a lot of thought that goes into it. I often get clients going, "What just happened?" And I'm like, I don't know. Like
Mm.
there's no we can't use words for it because it's a
Love experience.
literal yeah, it's an experience. And more than anything, for the years, I remember the years I was doing all that self development, personal development, trying to find like, I have like affirmations in the mirror of like, you are beautiful, things like that. But I never experienced myself as beautiful.
Mm.
I never had the full body experience of, wow, like I am beauty itself, and so are you, and so is that flower, and so is this, right? I never got to have that experience in my skin and my bones, right? So that's what sex can bring us, and what self pleasure can bring us is the experience of love and oneness and trust and openness, um, which we can't get just through words and thought in the mind. And I think they're both really valuable. Like, I think having a mind practice is also amazing.
Mhm.
But in general, there's so much focus on that. And so bringing it into the body allows us to release those. I see a lot, with people that they'll do all that verbal work, all the thoughts and belief systems and all that. And then they'll come to me like, I can't believe, I don't know why I'm having these thoughts. I don't know why I'm feeling not good enough. I don't know why I'm feeling ugly. I don't know why I'm struggling to love my partner. And it's because it's not from the mind, and trying to figure out why isn't going to get you there, right? So dropping the verbal narrative, dropping the why, and coming into the body will allow you to align to source, divinity, oneness,
Mm.
like just this inner anchoring that we can't get otherwise. And so that's, that's the real beauty of it. And then from that place of understanding who you are, where you are, which is the same as everyone else, right? Then you can go out into the world and love fully, which is the whole point of sex, right? The point of sex is to either express love or decondition us to a place of love. It's either or, whatever. I don't know what comes first, chicken or the egg, right? But it's that experience. And it doesn't matter what kind of sex it is. It could be crazy, super dark, taboo sex, or it could be tantric sex. It's all going to get us to that same place if we're doing it consciously and like actually with an understanding of what our nervous system needs, right? So
It's
that
so interesting.
love,
Mm.
say it again.
I say it's so interesting because for so many people, there's a resistance to getting into the body, of actually taking that journey and being able to connect from a place that's not mind. When I do theta healing work with my clients, it's all about getting past that conscious mind, because a lot of the clients that I work with and people I love very dearly, friends and family who I've worked with over the years, will say, oh no, that's not a problem because this is what I want and this is what I desire, this is what I feel. It's all coming from this conscious place of this is how I want it to be. But if underneath that there's not a match with either the fear that's there, or they're not in touch with the desire, or there's a subconscious fear, it will kind of consistently bounce back, because that need for safety is so paramount. And the mind can come up with so many different stories about why we need to be safe and how to do it that run silently. We have absolutely zero awareness of most of it. And this is why I love this body-based work, where we can just really go past that conscious mind and through the subconscious mind into the body in such a deep place where we start to have a place of body wisdom that doesn't necessarily speak in the same way. But once we can just learn to let go a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, sometimes grief will just naturally erupt from the body without words. And sometimes immense pleasure will erupt from the body without warning and without words. And like if we can allow all of it to be welcome and really feel this is how we become more healthy in our relationships with other people, whether that relationship becomes sexual or not, whether it's a friendship, whether it's for one night, whether it's for 1 year or the rest of your life, coming to that place of authenticity. For me, I feel like this is where it all begins. This is where we can really like tap into a potency and start to get our needs met and start to communicate, even if we haven't always got the right words. But once you can feel in and say, okay, this is how I'm feeling, then we can start a conversation that becomes more transparent.
It's beautiful. Something that makes me think of is this is a recent realization for me in my work with Satyen Raja, who's my current mentor, recognizing that a feeling, right? So many of us, when you say, "How do you feel?" right? They respond by giving you a thought, right?
Yeah.
Oh, right? They're like, oh, like, I need some coffee, right? Like that's what they'll give you. Or like they'll give you like a verbal thought. And a feeling is actually four different things combined, right? And that's what I mean by fully experiencing life, is when we can experience all four of these things at once, which sex can bring us to. So it's a feeling is a thought, an image, so having the mental picture, which will happen in self pleasure. When you guys go through my self pleasure practice, you'll see we do a lot of imagery. body sensation, which we were just speaking of, right? To tap into the body, and then emotion as well. And that's one of the 6 core emotions. So that comprehensively makes up a feeling. When we can allow that feeling to be present fully here with ourselves, then we recognize that safety is no longer a problem, right? Safety, I love that you brought up safety because that's such a big thing in sexuality and huge. And it's such a thing that I find so many people not wanting to expand
Yeah.
because of this fear that their safety is going to disappear. And it's very primal, right? We have this like primal place of, I get a lot like, if I expand sexually, then I'm not going to be safe. People will just like attack me, right? I get this a lot from female identified people. Or if I expand sexually as a man, then I'm going to hurt someone
Mm-hmm.
else, right? So this is just a common thing that comes up. And what we learn by allowing ourselves to fully accept and feel everything in the moment, it reminds me of Jeff Foster's work, right? To just be totally open to that, then we can realize that there's actually never a place where we're not safe, because even pain is safe, right? And often what we're running away from is not the pain. We think we're running away from pain, but we're actually avoiding is suffering. And suffering only occurs when we're avoiding something. So if we're experiencing pain in our body or in our hearts or in our mind, right? And we're running away from it, then we're in suffering.
Mm.
And so a self-pleasure practice allows us to go into whatever's here. You know, my self-pleasure practice this morning was fascinating because a lot of people, when they think self-pleasure, they think, okay, you're just orgasming every day, right? You're down with your genitals and you're orgasming. This morning, I've been going through resistances, right? I'm expanding again. And so, yeah, so I'm in resistance and I'm like, yeah, great, awesome. That means I'm going to expand. It's so fun. And so I'm in my self-pleasure practice and I'm feeling myself and I feel pain. I feel pain in my heart. I feel pain in my legs. I feel pain in my head. And I thought to myself, how can I fully feel this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I allowed it to be fully here. I thought the thoughts. I went deep into all the crap thoughts, right? I went deep into all of that and I just allowed it to be fully expressed. I was crying on my floor. And then on the other side of fully expressed pain is absolute bliss.
Yeah.
And so there's like this moment where it tweaks and I just started cracking up and I was like, life is so funny. We're so funny.
It's a fucking journey. Just when you think you've got it
It's
figured out, life goes, nope, try this.
yeah, it's a and when we can this is the point of sex that I love is like when we can remember the play,
Yeah.
this game, right? Like when we were little, we played so well, didn't we? We knew how to take a doll and share it with a friend. We knew how to pretend play. And then as soon as we hit puberty, we had this erotic essence in our body and we shut down our play mechanism because it wasn't okay anymore. And so sexuality is our chance to play and to remind ourselves that life is nothing but presence and playfulness, which is what children have, and we forget, right? And so sexuality and pleasure is, right, is that route back to the source of self, which is that primal play, that primal presence, right, that we've all forgotten. And there is where, I mean, I've seen people, I'm sure you've seen this, once they find that pleasure again, they'll go, all of a sudden their face will change. I look
Yeah.
completely
Oh, yeah.
different than I did, right? My body changed. My vagina's different. Like my nipples are different. The way that my body stores fat on it and runs energy is different because I have, you know, I have a certain number of years around the sun and my body is actually backtracked because I have all this young, youthful, vivacious energy in my body now. And so it's like, well, I'm not going to have pain and like, I'm not going to suffer, right? And so it just keeps clearing the energy. It's not suffering. It's
Yeah. And
fascinating.
I think this is what a lot of people become afraid of, and um, this thing about safety is a huge issue for people to work through first. And I feel like once they have the technique to actually feel into that fear, and again, that's about it being in the body, going past the conscious mind, like really, what is it that comes up, and being able to kind of breathe through that. It does shift something very profound in the nervous system, and combined with good practical tools around boundaries, because we're not taught consent, we're not taught boundaries, we're not taught as teenagers how to deal with all the sexual energy that comes up. And then plus we've got this conditioning that says it's shameful, or it should only be for this, and it should only be for that. It's like, wow, how can we shift the paradigm? And that's by taking responsibility, by doing this kind of work, because no one's going to suddenly magically swoop in and educate you on this. Like the government isn't going to take responsibility for this, and the schools isn't going to take responsibility for it, and there's no sort of out there force that's going to come in and change. It's really on us to create these changes, and then I feel to like just keep sharing what we're learning as we're going, sharing what's working. I was in a workshop last year, a very advanced sexuality workshop, where we had an opportunity to go into our deepest fear. And it could be a deepest fear personally or a deepest fear sexually. And my deepest fear was to be sexually assaulted again. And I could see, and what it really showed me was like these small insidious ways that it was controlling my behavior, that it was controlling how I showed up or didn't show up in relationships, the thought processes that I had at the back that I would like to just push away and say, I don't want to think about that. That's not true. It's weird. It's stupid. It's da da da. But it was absolutely there in the background, controlling just still this small piece. And when I was actually able to have an experience of, in a safe way, going through that fear, and then realizing that I could go through that fear and it wasn't going to kill me, which in my head I've made all these contracts of, if that ever happens to me again, I'm going to kill myself and no one can have power over me. Like all this stuff was going on in the background that if anybody had ever asked me, I never would have verbally said, because I didn't even really feel it was to be there. So what a gift it was actually to be able to go in such a deep way and just feel it and then just release it. Like it doesn't have to have power over me anymore. Like, how do I choose to live? Do I choose to live from a place of freedom? Or do I choose to live from a place where I'm afraid that something possibly might go wrong, that probably will never happen again?
Yeah.
And what a shift. Beautiful. Like, wow, what a shift. And it was so huge and so subtle all at the same time. And then not long after that, and some other work I've been doing with the subconscious shifting with the theta, I met my partner, he moved in, I got pregnant, and here we are. I've got a bun in the oven, and because that subconscious fear, it was like the last, I don't know what the word is, but the last hidden thing.
That's beautiful. And I love, fear is such a funny thing too, because fear, I think we're taught, or at least some of us have this belief system that we need to figure out how to get rid of fear.
Yeah.
Right. And fear is so beautiful. It's an emotion. It's a core experience to be afraid. I recently welcomed fear in because I have a partner in my life now. This is new. I'm a very sovereign, independent woman. One of the things that happens when we fill ourselves up with self-pleasure is we call in people, right? Because we're radiant and I don't even have to do anything and it just appeared, right? And it's beautiful, and like the partnership is absolutely incredible. And there's a part of me that's in fear, right? Yeah. And so what I do is every day, the part of me that's in fear, I bring her into my self-pleasure practice.
Yes.
And I'm like, hey babe, what's up? Like, what are we afraid of today? And I don't need her to go away. Yeah. I don't need her to shift. She's good, right? If I ignore her, she's going to hijack my partnership. right? If that I know, because that I've seen over and over again in my lifetime, right? This hijacking sequence. And so every single trigger that we have, there's a higher consciousness desire in that trigger. And when we can bring it into our body and fully allow it, like that fear at its core, that little girl, what she really wants for me is to experience freedom. She
Yeah.
doesn't realize that I can have that in a partnership because she's like an adolescent version of me, right? So she doesn't know that, but I don't need to change her or get her to understand that. But I love her because she wants liberation for me. And I'm like, babe, I hear you. I love that you want liberation for me, and let's do it. Like, let's get liberated. And so I have the experience in my body of freedom and liberation, and then she releases and calms down until she pops up again.
Yeah.
Because it's a never, the game doesn't end, and that doesn't matter when the game is really fun.
Yeah.
Right? It's like a lot of people are like, I got to, the spiritual development game is just going to go on forever. And I'm like, yeah, awesome. Like, it's so fun. Right. Like, I think it's a blast. So I'm like, if that means that every day I just feel into my body and then have orgasms, like, I'm good. I can do that forever. Right. And each time reach a higher state of consciousness. Right. And what's so beautiful too about fear is at its core, and this kind of goes into safety, what we're protecting ourselves against is death, right? Like that's like if we take everything apart. So like the fear of a sexual assault, right? It's a death, either death of egoic self or death of body self. The fear of, for me, the opposite of freedom, which is like stuckness. That's a slow death, right? Or a lot of people are afraid of being hurt. A lot of people are afraid of fucking up somehow and doing something wrong. Then what happens is they'll get kicked out of the tribe. And back in the day, in primal days, if you're kicked out of a tribe, you die, right? Because we have the sense of community is really important in our primal brain. And so once we can experience that the fear is actually death, and to recognize that there's actually nothing that we can do, we are powerless over when this lifetime is going to end and when another one's going to begin, right? We don't get to control that piece. Then we can laugh about it, right? And experience ourselves welcoming in that fear. And even, this is just a little add-on for those of you that are watching that like want to master this to a higher level. I wrote a post about this a few weeks ago, is even bringing that fear of death in and like experiencing your death over and over again, which has been really fun.
I was just in my head thinking, do I go there? Do I go there? Because
we're going there.
Going now. Because it's such a, I don't even know how many shamanic deaths I've actually like been in the ground and had my people read out my testimony, and it was such an empowering experience. And it's really interesting because I guess as someone who has always had a natural connection to spirit, to life, and to the in-between worlds, I've always had a feeling, let's say, which to many people might sound very strange, but a very strong understanding that death is also right here, as is life. Yes. Life is here, but so is death. And most of us spend our entire lives ignoring death to the extent that we don't fully live. Because if we don't really face that fact that nothing's actually guaranteed, how can we truly seize the day? How can we truly be like fully present and pull it in and do it, like knees knocking, teeth chattering, scared, and just think, fuck it, I'm going to give it a go. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, I fall flat on my face. But then it kind of, it's a driver almost to live.
Yeah, and that's it. Like how many times during your day can you die? Wow. Because like that's what we're afraid of, right? And so just keep killing yourself, right? Metaphorically, like every time you think you know who you are, kill it.
Oh, I love that. I love it.
Like, because you don't know who you are. None of us do, right? It's funny with the blueprints because, I teach the erotic blueprints, and I've spoken to Jaya, who's the creator of the erotic blueprints. We're pretty close at this point. And we were talking in December, and I was like, wait a second, Jaya. I think you know, but how well do you know? Like, I want to talk to you about this, that the blueprints essentially don't really matter because people use them, right? They're tools, and I'll go over them in a sec, but people use them to define themselves, right? And then they get to a place through using the blueprint tool where they're no longer here, right? So they get to a place where they experience oneness, which means like complete dissolution of ego, sexual awakening. And then they realize that they are none of them, right? And she's like, yeah, right. Like it's for whatever reason, our egos need to climb that ladder of figuring out who we are.
Yeah.
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 And then we go, oh shit, it's not like lately I've completely dissolved the idea of gender. It's gone. It's not on my body anymore. The idea of like mission in the world, like I've let that go. I'm like, I'm just going to show up. I'm just going to show up because, and in that showing up, it releases all the pressure.
Oh my
It's just
God,
like,
so much more fun. So much more fun. And
yeah,
I'm reading something you're saying about you and your partner recently. It's like we kind of both know we're here playing this game, but yet here we are playing this game. So it's like, what kind of game do you want to play?
exactly.
What kind of
And
game do you want to play?
that's another thing with, I think you mentioned boundaries a little bit while back. So I'm glad that you just brought this up because it made me think of boundaries. Boundaries are a part of the game. You don't have to play them, but if it's a way that your game can be more fully expressed, then
Mm.
play with them. And a lot of people don't set boundaries because they don't recognize that they can create whatever reality they want. They think that if I set this boundary, then that other person's going to disappear or my reality will change and then I'll be like powerless over my reality. The truth is that you have the ability to shift your universal reality at any moment. And a boundary is simply saying, this is the reality that I want to create. That's it.
Hmm.
Right? And then whoever else around you shifts, they shift. But I think people forget that a lot of us just kind of allow life to pass us, and we don't realize that we can stop it and shift it whenever we want, right?
No,
And
absolutely.
that yeah, and that's the only way to realize that is to realize it in an embodied experiential way. Once we recognize that the universe lays at the tips of our fingertips, right?
Amazing.
Then in any moment we can go poof, change. So,
It
so
works.
nothing ever happens to you. Yeah, and there's never victimhood in that, and there's never. It's like, oh, I don't like it. Cool, let me change it. It's that simple. So,
Tell
yeah.
us a little bit more then about, because when does the next self pleasure challenge start? So tell us about the process, what we'll be
Mm.
doing, who's invited, what kind of things we can expect.
Beautiful. Yeah. So I'm so excited about this. It was a fun vision that I had like in 2017. And it's just like totally catapulted. We started with 20 people and now we have over 1,000 in there and it's amazing. It's for all genders because gender has dissolved in my brain. So I don't care what gender identification you have. Um,
Imagine.
yeah, it's poof, it's gone. It doesn't matter. All sexual orientations, because that also doesn't matter. All ages, because that doesn't matter. It's for all levels of openness to sexuality, as you mentioned before. Like wherever you are, it'll bring you something. It's going to meet you where you are and bring you along. It is it is not just a fun, like, woohoo, let's play with ourselves for a week, like at all. Those of you that are watching that have taken it can comment a little bit about this, but it's a bit shamanic. Like it people go into some dark spaces and it will bring you up against your walls. It'll bring you up against fear and resistance. And that's why we have the tribe, right? That's why it's not done just through an email chain so that you can come in and say, this is what I'm experiencing today, right? So each day we go through a different type of nervous system deconditioning. There's 5 different types. I'm not going to tell you too much about them because I want you to explore it in your body first before your mind does. But each day we go through a different one, and then you experience it in your body, and you allow whatever's there to be present, right? And it's a space of practicing full acceptance of whatever's here. So if fear comes up, trauma, shame, excitement, pleasure, orgasm, climax, like all that is juicy and amazing. At the end of it, I have $2,500 worth of prizes that people win.
They go for the best orgasm. Like, how do you decide who that goes to?
Anyone who does all 5 days.
Brilliant.
So anyone who does all 5 days, and because I get to create the reality I want, and so my reality is like, yeah, I want to give people $2,500 worth of prizes, like, because I'm a giver. Like, it feels really good to me to just give, give, give. So make sure to complete all 5 days on time, and then you'll get that. So you want to block out your calendar. It's every day at 11 Eastern. I'm in New York, so I
11,
don't know
12,
what that
1,
is.
2, 3. So that's 4 p.m. UK time.
Perfect. And it's just a beautiful tribe. It's that you stay in the community afterwards. So if you need support to continue your pleasure journey, there's no like requirements to be a part of that tribe. You just stay in there. And like you said, there's people all over the world, so you can start to find people wherever you're located, which is really juicy and super fun. Yeah,
Exciting. So I've just realised
yeah.
I completely didn't introduce myself. I'm just going to say hello to a few of the people online. So hello to Dana, Marcia, Steve, Paul,
Hi
and
guys.
oh my God, I'm just going through all these. We're talking so much, like sometimes you can't stop to all the questions and comments because otherwise we lose the flow. Hi to Matt.
It's
Matt said,
good.
"Fear can bring us to the most intimate connection of who and what we are, to be what we are, the witness." That's so true.
Yes,
Hi,
exactly.
Charmaine. Hi, Kevin, Susie. Hi, Deanne and Guy and Shirley and Indra and Lewis and everyone else online who hasn't commented. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Jade Diamond. I'm a love and intimacy coach. I live in London. I work internationally with women 35 plus to help them find their soulmate. And I also work with a lot of married couples and women, not a marriage counselor. I don't do the drag someone by the heels because they said that they have to go. I work with really great couples who just don't want to live like roommates anymore. And they really
Mm,
want to ignite the sexuality, or they need to do something with their communication. And I help them really stop living like roommates and get that kind of passion back, which is such
mm,
beautiful work for me. I'm the author of a book called Abuse to Abundance, which went to bestseller.
mm, mm.
And yeah, I've got a challenge coming up, which is how to get high quality dates. It's a 5-day challenge, which is really fun, really kind of intro, and really getting clear on the kind of person that you want, and then who you
Mm.
need to be in order to pull that person in. And also, we're going to have a look towards the end of that week at how to draw in, as we talked a lot about energetically, how we draw in, because a lot of clients, when they first come to me, they talk about what strategy, how can you get me. I used to work for a matchmaking agency as well, like how can you match me up, who can you, and actually all that stuff is like really
It
relevant. It's
doesn't
all about
work.
going in, and what do I really believe? What are my fears and what are my desires? So during those 5 days, we're going to have a really good look at what are my desires and what are my fears, because that's the stuff that's holding you back from where you want to be. So in the link to this video, there's a link to Genevieve's um 5-day challenge. So it's actually free to join. So guys, I really recommend you do, because it's absolute gold what Genevieve is teaching, and it's such yeah, it's so wonderful and such an honor to talk to you. You can find a link to the 5-day challenge there. Is there anything else that you'd like to express?
Mm, just a reminder. What you were speaking of with calling in the person, and thank you for doing that work. That's stunning. I know so many people in suffering, right? Experiencing suffering, not having that person, that soulmate. So Thank you for that.
Mm.
And just the beauty and the reminder, and I'm sure you would agree with this, that anything that we want, right? Anything that we want is inside of our being. And it's a matter of turning up the dial of life inside of us, turning up the
And
dial of radiance, right? Like, how beaming can your heart be when you walk down the street? How much can you make love to the trees? Like, then, I mean, literally, like, the way that my clients and I show up now, it's like we have to stop people from asking us out. Like, it's like a constant stream. I'm
no,
like, guys, like, I'm busy. Like, I got,
working,
listen.
sorry.
Yeah, exactly. That's because it's when you bring that life inside of you, people feel that you're alive, and it's what our world is craving. It's a gift to humanity to be alive. And that's what you're bringing your clients, what I'm doing with the Pleasure Challenge, and it just gets me so excited. I think about what our world can be like when all of us become fully alive again, and it's just like, ooh, I got tingles all up and down my spine.
Awesome. And I think the big thing is, which we touched on a little bit in this, is like, we can spend a lot of time, um, calling in the right partner or partners and creating healthy sexual connection. And for a lot of people, they feel like that's the work, but actually, it's just a stage of the work, because when you get it, there's something else to do as well. It's like it doesn't finish. Like once you create a self-pleasure practice, or once you create the ideal partner, or once you create the freedom inside of the relationship and the travel and the money, and it's all at the same time, there's always things to work through. And that's the nature of expansion, of like, can you live with the fear and just put fear in the back seat so that you're the one that's
Mm-hmm.
driving and continue
Mm-hmm.
to drive where you want to go.
Yeah. And just play a little. It's the game. That's it. Otherwise, we'd be dead. Well, we are dead, but we'd be like really dead. We wouldn't be like
Again.
here. We'd be like that's part of it. And can we see the doing as this delicious dance and this so much fun? Like today when you said you want to come on a live and I said, "Okay," instead of I got to do all the things. I went, "No, I'm going to play this game. I'm going to create this reality." So thank you for inviting me on. It was so fun to connect with you. I love the work you're doing.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you very much.
All right, sweetheart. Thank you so much. I'm going to finish. I've got all these things on my screen that are flapping around and people sending messages, and I'm like, go away, go away. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Guys, you can
Mm.
check out the link to the challenge above this video, and I'll pop it in the comments as well. And then, yeah, we'll keep an eye on the next steps.
Yay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye, darling. Bye.